Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for our last event of the month for National Disability Employment Awareness Month. This whole month, we have been highlighting community resources and organizations that are just doing incredible things to help our community. And today is no different. We have the Special Olympics that is going to be doing a lovely presentation for all of us today. So I just wanted to introduce each of them to you before they start. On the call today and presenting will be Kara Suksi. She is the manager of sports and training. We have Tim Heileman, who is the CEO. We have Dan Ekkonen, which is the Senior Director of Program Leadership. And we also have Danielle Van Acker, who is the Coordinator of Health and Wellness. Before we get started today, we will have a time at the very end for some questions. So maybe 5 to 10 minutes at the very end of a presentation. We will have some questions. So please hold your questions until the end. Feel free to share them in the chat, but we will answer those at the very end. And pretty much we just wanted to welcome all of our presenters today. Thank you so much for being a part of this event today. We really appreciate you. And we're hoping at the end that everybody is inspired to go on to their community and make a difference and partner with organizations like Special Olympics to make a difference in our communities. So without further ado, Tim, feel free to start your presentation. Thank you so much.
Great. Well, thanks, Kristen. I'm really excited to be here and share with all of you about this movement called Special Olympics Michigan. And as you can see on the screen, you know, many individuals are familiar with our incredible sports programs, and you're going to hear a little bit about that. But we're here today really to kind of talk about what we do in the future of this organization, and that's we are really a movement of inclusion. If you look up the first four words of movement, it means an act of changing, and that's really what Special Olympics Michigan is. We're an organization that believes in change and wants to continue change of ending discrimination towards individuals with intellectual disabilities. And you're going to get to hear some of our fantastic staff members about a lot of the different services that we provide. So as we get going with the presentation, I thought it would be good to kind of start a little bit with the history of the Special Olympics movement. The organization, oh, there you can see the beautiful smiles of our athletes winning those medals. So Special Olympics started the first ever Summer Games in 1968. And again, as you can see on there, 1968, a lot of time of turmoil, of divisiveness. And the movement was founded to allow individuals with intellectual disabilities an opportunity to compete at the highest level. And we still do that today, but we've come a long ways. And one of the great things about, with our movement is we want to look at history so we don't repeat any of the negative stuff and can move forward. And so, you think of the 60s of institutionalism, the race riots, assassinations, and then you have this organization that's coming up that are bringing people together, where individuals of all races, abilities, socioeconomic, come together as a community. And just thinking about this even during the presentation today of you think of our times today and where we're at, right? And it's unfortunately so similar of divisiveness and brokenness and anger throughout the world. And I really believe that one of the answers of bringing again folks together, community by community, is the Special Olympics movement. So brief history, Special Olympics Michigan was a part of that first ever games in 1968. You can see we've had the opportunity to not only host incredible events as we do every year here in Michigan, but we've had an international presence as well. In the 1975, we hosted the fourth ever International World Summer Games. We've had the 50th anniversary celebration with all the Special Olympics programs. Overall, there's close to 200 Special Olympics programs worldwide, with millions of athletes participating, and so we really believe that again we can make a difference not only here individually in every one of our communities, but as a collective together. Most recently in 2022. We hosted the first Special Olympics international event since COVID, which was the Unified Cup in Detroit, the World Cup of Soccer. and where we welcomed 24 nations to Michigan. You know, a lot of people will say, you know, when is the Special Olympics? You know, they see the summer games where we'll have 3,000 athletes and 1,500 coaches and all sorts of things, and say, you know, when is the Special Olympics? And the answer is Special Olympics is every day. It's everywhere in the community. Again, our goal of bringing people together is this everyday movement. Throughout the year, there's around 700 sporting activities all throughout the state, outside of our state events that Carol will talk about a little bit. So there's always activation and opportunities to get engaged. And again, our purpose is simple. It's to end discrimination against individuals with intellectual disabilities. And we do that by providing opportunities for all athletes to showcase their gifts, abilities, and traits. You know, it really is this life-changing opportunities. We say, you know, we are not a charity. So yes, we're a nonprofit organization, we're a 501c3 organization, but we're not a charity. And that fact of our goal is to not give handouts to our athletes, is to help provide that hand up and let them showcase their gifts and abilities. And that's one of the great things about this movement is it is for every individual. Quick by the numbers, a little over 20,000 individuals with unified partners. We offer 24 sports now. However, that number is going up because we're adding in the very popular pickleball and cornhole next year and bringing back tennis. So that's exciting. We have state large level competitions all over. Located a big plug if you're in Southeast Michigan, come out to the United Wholesale Mortgage Sports Complex on Friday, November 10th, as we have our flag football state finals, poly hockey. We've got some unified bowling. So sorry, Kara. Hopefully I didn't steal your thunder on that one, but always looking for volunteers. And the other part of this is, you know, our movement is community focused, and you can see over 30,000 volunteers to be a part of this. And one of the things I think is so important to know is, yeah, with Special Olympics, it is not just our athletes that are benefiting, you know, from the programs, from the sports, from the health, from the Unified Champion Schools that you hear about. It's the volunteers, it's the teachers, it's the family, and it really is this inclusive community. So shared already a little bit about that, you know, our mission to provide opportunities of sporting for individuals with intellectual disabilities, with our goal of opening hearts and minds for communities. You know, so many times I'll hear from an individual, boy, I had no idea, or they come to an event and say, boy, that was amazing, because you come to an event, you're going to see awesome sportsmanship, camaraderie, fierceness, you know, grit from our athletes. So many times, you know, you're just thinking of what's had to be overcome to get to a certain point, and then just bursting through barriers is incredible. You know, we're very much committed to excellence, continuing our work. You know, we very much believe in diversity, equity, inclusion, and including disability of part of that conversation. You're going to hear a little bit about our health and well-being and some programs, Unified Champion Schools, that are really literally saving lives here. And so again, you see some of these, we believe in the holistic approach of the entire individual. Yes, you know, a lot of times it's sports training. We've got poly hockey, as I mentioned, flag football coming up, but within that, there's so much more. And then the sportsmanship and integrity of sport. Our athletes work, they train, they earn those medals, and there's nothing like having an athlete at a state event with their arms raised in the air, getting that medal from a law enforcement torch run officer, because they absolutely earned that medal. And I think that's one of the another great things about Special Olympics Michigan. And mentioned that really this is a community, and we need folks. We need, you know, the families, the volunteers. We want this to be a culture of welcome. Getting back to my earlier remarks of a lot of hurt. You know, you turn on the news and it is not fun to read the news. And a lot of times can be depressing and sound and you know, anytime though I go to a Special Olympics event or around our athletes, you know, my mood changes, my outlook changes. And I think that's why, again, it's not only is beneficial to our athletes, participants, but for those that are a part of it as well. So, one of our plugs put on this is we don't exist without volunteers. You saw 20,000 plus athletes. We're a staff of about 40. And so having a program in every county in Michigan, all over, having this movement that continues to grow, it's because of that true grassroots that started in 1968 and today of volunteers who give their time, enthusiasm, who really want to connect, and commit to supporting individuals and making the world a more inclusive and accepting place. Lastly, one of the programs that it's not known about a lot, and I just had the absolute honor. I just got back from Chicago this morning. I was attending the Law Enforcement International Torch Run Conference. So Law Enforcement Torch Run is our largest grassroots funding effort, the largest grassroots for Special Olympics International, and here in Michigan. And one of the things we talk about is, you think of law enforcement dealing with sometimes society's but most hurt, most dangerous. Law enforcement officers show up when something matters. And they're always showing up for our athletes because our athletes matter. And so they're there raising funds, they're there coaching, they're there carrying the torch. As we talked about sports integrity and keeping in line with the Olympics, we have the Flame of Torch that starts all major state events. And so our partnership with Law Enforcement Torch Run is incredible, as it raises funds, awareness, and allows our athletes to continue to strive to their best.
Thanks, Tim. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Again, as Tim said, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedules to join with us. It means a lot to have you guys here too, that you want to learn more about Special Olympics. My name is Kara Suxi. I live in Metro Detroit, and I oversee the sports in Southeast Michigan, as well as the coaches trainings that we do here throughout the entire year. I love this picture. You can see Eunice Kennedy Shriver in her very nice suit, surrounded by many, many smiling athletes. I know Tim talked about kind of how Special Olympics got started, but I just kind of wanted to circle back to it a little bit and talk about it from maybe a sports perspective. So Mrs. Shriver obviously is the founder of Special Olympics and really was the pioneer in the struggle for rights and acceptance for people with intellectual disabilities. And it started out in 1962. She started a camp in her own backyard and she called it Camp Shriver. And she invited children at that time with intellectual disabilities to just come and take part. And she really wanted to explore the children's skills in a variety of different sports and physical activities and what they could do. And that idea obviously grew into 5 years later in Chicago, as Tim mentioned, the first international Special Olympics. So Mrs. Shriver stated in her opening ceremony comments what would become the International Athlete Oath and what all of our athletes say today before every tournament or competition, which is let me win, but if I cannot win, let me be brave in the attempt. I think we use that around the office too sometimes. So I think these words really emphasize the importance of personal effort, right? And trying for one's personal best. Also in her remarks at that same day, she just wanted to drive home the fundamental fact that children with intellectual disabilities can be exceptional athletes, and that through sport, they can really realize their potential for growth and what they can do. And she wanted to afford all of those athletes, which is why we're still here doing what we do today, the chance to play, the chance to compete, and the chance to grow, and how important that is. So really her vision, has evolved into a global movement, and it touches 200 countries and more than 6 million people with intellectual disabilities. So she has left behind a phenomenal legacy. I had the privilege of attending, and I was with Tim. Tim also attended back in the spring, Special Olympics North America Sport Conference. And there was this great speaker. He told a lot of great stories, but he knew Mrs. Shriver personally and worked with her back in the early days and when there were institutions. And he showed us pictures. But I'd say the most resonating part of his speech that day, at least it struck me, was how dedicated Mrs. Shriver was to ensuring that every single athlete participate in quality training and sports. And we stress the word quality. She wanted athletes to learn the sport and become the best that they could be in that sport. So this is really why it says quality training. I mean, this is why our core focus is quality training for our athletes and our coaches. So we focus on practices and how they should look and how they should be run, and warm-ups, cool downs, sport-specific drills, nutrition, overall health and well-being. We're trying to really make it all encompassing. Every coach who coaches for us must be certified in the sport that they're coaching. So they would complete an in-person or a virtual training that is sport specific. We cover the details down to the nitty-gritty of that sport, all the rules, all the guidelines to follow. And then in addition to the sport specific, we also require an overall general policies and procedures training that they must do, concussion protocol, what we call protective behaviors, keeping our athletes safe. So it's a lot, but our coaches never complain. They are honestly the most dedicated group of individuals you will ever meet in your life. And we would not exist without them, period. So we have a lot of sports, and as Tim said, we have a couple more coming on board, or a few, which is amazing. I guess I didn't, when I started, I never wanted to say like, when's our downtime? Because I think the response would be never. We go from one season right into the next. And right now we're in fall sports, we're planning for winter sports. And then we just keep going from there. So as Tim said, he did steal my thunder a little bit, but we do have our state poly hockey, which is like floor hockey, and flag football and unified bowling coming up November 10th. So if you do live in Southeast Michigan, and I know it's a Friday, but if you can stop in and check it out, or if you want to volunteer with us, we would love to have you. Kristen Blanchard has my contact information, so she can certainly pass it along if you're interested. This is a very colorful map of our beautiful state of Michigan. It just shows how we at Special Olympics, we kind of divide our state up into 9 different regions, and they're by color, and you can see they're listed there in the bullet points. We also have areas, local areas. We have 36 local areas, and each area has a local area director. And that area director is really, I would say, our boots on the ground person in that specific part of the state, and the local contact there for our athletes and coaches. So where I oversee the Southeast region for sports and coaches trainings, I have 2 counterparts. I have one who oversees sports and trainings on the west side of the state, and another person who manages the northern Michigan and the Upper Peninsula. So we host in Michigan local, regional, and state tournaments. So our area directors will run the local events, and we offer assistance to them whenever they need it, of course. But then we also, from the state level, in addition to the state events, which I'll show on the next slide, we oversee regional events. So for instance, last March, and this occurs every March, we host just a Southeast basketball district event. And it's a qualifier to head over and hopefully compete in the state tournament, which is in Grand Rapids. But this past March, we had 53 basketball teams compete. And again, that was just Southeast. So basketball is very popular with our athletes for sure. So our state tournaments, as I mentioned, are throughout the year. And the dates for 2024 are listed there along with the areas. These are our culminating events for our athletes. They strive to get here. You can see we do travel throughout the state for these. So depending on where you live throughout Michigan, because from Kristen's telling me you guys are spread all over the state. So if you want to stop in, check it out, cheer on our athletes, or we would love to have you as a volunteer as well. That's my last slide, but I hope I'm able to give you a deeper understanding of, what we do here at Special Olympics from the sports side, the sports perspective, and why sport is something that really brings all of our athletes together. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Dan.
Thanks, Kara. So with Special Olympics, we have so many different programs, and Tim and Kara have kind of given an overview of what a lot of people think of when they think Special Olympics and our competitions and, the different sports that we offer, and sort of what that looks like. But what's great is we have a lot of different avenues to get involved in a lot of different offerings that we have. About 16 years ago, Special Olympics International was trying to solve a problem of how do we get more young people involved in the movement? How do we bring together students? So, whether it's that next generation of volunteers and supporters, how do we get them involved at a young age? And so that started what's called Unified Champion Schools. And Kara, you can go to the next slide. Unified Champion Schools is an education-based strategy that brings together students with and without intellectual disabilities. And the whole purpose of Unified Champion Schools is to really create a school environment that believes and lives inclusion. And so it's done through bringing together students with and without intellectual disabilities. Students actually have leadership stake in the strategy in their school, and they help plan it. And so Unified Champion Schools actually starts pre-K and runs all the way through college. And so we're supported through our state and through the Federal Department of Education to run Unified Champion Schools. And it's, like I said, it's only been around 16 years, which kind of sounds like a long time, but really it's taken off in the last probably 10 years and really grown at an exciting pace. And more young people are being involved with the movements. And it's one of my favorite things that we do with Special Olympics because of the impact that it has for young people. So with this slide here, I just want you all to take a look, and I'm going to ask some feedback via the chat. So just want you to take a second to look at these pictures and then go ahead and drop in the chat, what do you see? Very simply, just what do you see? Is it, could be something more surface level, could be something with a deeper meaning, but go ahead and start entering those into the chat, and I'm going to share a little bit more and then kind of see what we've got. And I would invite anyone, whether it's staff, audience members, feel free to enter what it is that you see in these photos here. But when we talk about Unified Champion Schools, we talk about the social inclusion piece. So it's not just bringing students together, classroom and that sort of thing. With social inclusion, what we're seeing are young people truly forming friendships, students with and without disabilities, finding those commonalities and creating true friendships that not only happen in a classroom setting, but they happen in an extracurricular setting. They happen in the hallways, in the classrooms, in the lunchrooms. They carry over into weekends and at home and in the community. And that's really what we're creating. And Special Olympics' role with Unified Champion Schools is to support our educators and our students, and so they can make this happen in their school. What's great about the Unified Champion School strategy is we don't come in with a rigid set of exactly what it has to look like. We let each school tailor to their students, to their school, to their community, so it's a fit for them. We want to partner with schools and work with them to create inclusion, however that might look, in an urban setting, in a rural setting, suburban setting, whatever it might be. I'm just going to kind of go through here. We see different things: smiles, happiness, joy. We see some competition there, excitement. These are the things that we're building. Teamwork with Unified Champion Schools, and it can happen, like we said, you would be shocked at what it looks like in an elementary school and how students step up at a young age and really embrace what it means to become friends. And I'll tell a quick story I love telling stories, but we had one of our schools, it's actually the one where you see the two students on the right side holding hands. They had a parent of a student who had an intellectual disability, and they ran their program, and they always got together on Fridays and played bocce in school. And then at the end of the school year, that family was moving because of a career change. And before they moved, they had a birthday party. And they had about 25, 30 students that came to this. Mom had told our educator that she never thought they'd have a birthday party, let alone one that so many friends came to the party, because her child had an intellectual disability. And so when they moved, they were moving to California. The first thing they did was call Special Olympics California and ask where they have Unified Champion Schools, because this program within schools was so impactful to them that they wanted to continue to be a part of it, you know, all the way across the US. And so I always tell that story because I think it shows the impact that it has for our students. Carrie, you can go to the next slide, please. So thank you all for participating with the question and feedback there. So when we talk about Unified Champion Schools, how does it happen? What does it look like? There's three core components to Unified Champion Schools. One is unified sports. So students with and without disabilities on teams together, forming friendships. The other is inclusive youth leadership, where they have a stake in the strategy and help develop that strategy and plan it and organize what their Unified Champion School strategy is going to be. And the third is whole school engagement. So you have unified sports, you have a group of students that participate in that. Maybe some of your students aren't into sports, so they get involved in the youth leadership side. How do you make it a truly school-wide, you know, have the whole entire school embrace what it means to be a Unified Champion School and to be inclusive? You have a number of different activities. And so those are the three core components, and that red swatch there in the middle, we call it kind of the secret sauce. When you have those three components, that's when the magic happens, and that's when students really get it and embrace it, and it affects not only individual students but the entire school and their community. And so you can go to the next slide, Kara. I'm going to jump into a real brief intro of each of the components just to kind of show you what it can look like, to kind of help give you a picture. With unified sports, if you think back to your high school days or middle school days, elementary school days, you know, who were your friends? Oftentimes it was those students that you were in a group with, maybe you were on a team with, or in band, or in, you know, student council, whatever that might be. And so unified sports is one. We are a sports organization. We believe in quality competition, as Kara said. So how do we create that for students with and without intellectual disabilities? We can do it in an intramural setting where they're playing alongside their peers within their own school. Maybe they get together and participate regularly. We've had a lot of success in recent years with interscholastic sports. And here's one of our teams from Detroit Public Schools, where they play other schools, just like JV and varsity. They'll put a unified basketball game in between those. And so people get to see it. It's at a high level. It's run through the athletic department. We have Young Athletes, which is a play program for children ages 2 through 7. Really trying to build their foundational skills. And there's research that shows students who participate for a half an hour a day for 2 to 3 days per week in Young Athletes actually show a 7-month gain in gross motor skills over a 2-month period. So by participating regularly in Young Athletes for 2 months, they actually show a 7-month gain in their motor skill development. And it's, if you've seen Young Athletes, it's the most fun, cutest thing that we offer. It's a ton of fun. Developmental sports is kind of that next age group. As students turn age 8, how do they start to work towards team unified sports? And so our developmental sports program really focuses on the basics of sport, with the end goal being we're now going to participate in team sports competition. Fitness, physical education, and wellness all can be done through Unified. And I'm not going to go too deep into that because Danielle, our next presenter, is going to share the ins and outs of fitness and wellness. But we have a unified phys ed curriculum that schools can implement. So students come together, they go phys ed class together, and they get those shared experiences that way. We also have rivalry games where two unified teams from rival schools will come together and kind of take on the pomp and circumstance of what a rivalry means at the high school or college level, and bring the inclusive piece to it. And then field day activities. A lot of our elementary schools might already be running a field day or a sports exploration. They just create an opportunity for students to come together and compete alongside each other and participate together. Our next one is inclusive youth leadership. So what does that look like? A lot of times it's what we call a youth activation committee, or YAC, where they form a group within school that helps drive their program. They meet regularly with an educator. They plan the activities that they're going to do and host social activities and help plan their whole school engagement piece. A lot of our elementary schools will start things like lunch buddies and work, have students come together and sit together at lunch and just share, become friends that way. Unified clubs, where a lot of school clubs happen, especially at the high school, middle school space. They'll form a unified club that functions similar to a student council. We actually have created an inclusive readers club where we can provide books and sort of a mini curriculum where teachers or students can take that. Students can read a book and then have discussions around inclusion and what it means to be inclusive. Inclusive youth leadership can be done as practice or team captains, where they're leading stretches. They're helping lead a team. There's even coaching opportunities for students. We have a leadership launch that we host. We actually had 5 this just last week. We finished up, where we go around and offer inclusive youth leadership training to different schools. We bring schools together. We do some training with them, and then that way they can go back to their schools and put their plans in action. We help them develop those and create inclusion once they go back to their schools. And we have a statewide youth activation committee that helps us drive our program. This Unified Champion Schools is meant to be for schools and for students. And so I can't make all those decisions at our office. We have to talk to our youth leaders from across the state and hear, what do they want to hear? What do they see happen with Unified Champion Schools? And so that way we're working with our students to create what they want. And the third component is whole school engagement. And so, like I mentioned earlier, we've got these 2 core groups. How do you get everyone else involved and on board? And so schools will do that. A lot of times they don't have to recreate the wheel, but maybe they can put a unified or an inclusive twist on what they're already doing. Some of our schools will run like a Be Kindness Week or a Respect Week, where they'll do activities each day throughout the week. Sometimes at the end of the week, they have a unified game or something to sell. A lot of our schools are already doing bullying prevention. So how do we tie into that with a unified sense to that? Pep assemblies are a big one where, a lot of times you recognize your athletic teams, they're recognizing their unified teams are hosting an inclusion assembly. Announcements, daily announcements that they do through class, they'll have educational pieces built in, tied around inclusion and unified. The interscholastic sports piece, like you see here, we want cheerleaders involved and fans in the stands and, community members and warm-ups. So it looks and feels like a varsity basketball game. And it's just 2 unified teams playing. A lot of our schools will do an inclusion campaign throughout the week. They'll do clap outs if their unified teams go into one of our state tournaments, where they line the halls and cheer them on as they exit to the bus. And then we have kind of a built-in program called Spread the Word Inclusion, where we focus on what it means to be inclusive, and our schools will take that and host it in their schools as well. And just wanted to touch briefly on Esso College Clubs. Basically what we're doing is taking that K through 12 mindset of Unified Champion Schools and letting college students lead it on their campus. So we have what's been very popular here in Michigan is Unified Intramural Leagues, where we bring in our local athletes aged 18 plus, and they participate on intramural teams with college students. They do a lot of advocacy on campus and like spread the word inclusion campaigns on campus. They host social where they're going out into their communities near campus and to campus events, bringing our athletes and creating those friendships that way. All of our Esso College clubs create a registered student organization. So they're recognized by campus and they've kind of got their place on campus. Then they also volunteer with our events as well. And one of the most fun things that we do with this photo is from just a week or two ago. We always get together our students from University of Michigan, with Michigan State, with our athletes from both communities, and we do a unified rivalry game the night before the big varsity game. And so it's a hit, you know, like I said, you think of how intense the rivalry can often be with U of M and Michigan State. And so we bring together our athletes and our college students. We play on campus and it's just a hit. You know, it really takes the intensity of a rivalry and turns it inclusive the night before the big game. So my last slide is just kind of where we're at. You know, we often talk about Unified Champion Schools and sort of where we're going. We have 462 schools that are part of the program here in Michigan. There's over 9,000 Unified Champion schools nationwide. And so our goal is to hit 10,000 by 2025. We have 16,000 students here that are involved in Unified Champion Schools activities just in the state. And this is our 15th year. We started with 5 schools in Detroit Public Schools. We've now expanded to that 462 and it continues to grow. I think I was just doing our county count right before this. We have 40 of the 83 counties that we have Unified Champion Schools in. And when we talk about outcomes and how we know the program's working, we do research every year. And you can see there, 95% of our UCS liaisons or teachers felt that the strategy helped a school become more socially inclusive, which is the end goal of it. And 100% said that it was valuable to their school. So I want to get involved. Before I hand it over to Danielle, there's a couple ways. One, you can get your kids' school involved or a school in your community. Have them reach out to Special Olympics. We'd love to coordinate with them. You can coach or volunteer or officiate with your school locally. If you work with a school, we would love to work with them for them to become a Unified Champion school as well. So I'm going to hand it over to Danielle to talk fitness and wellness.
All right. Hello, everybody. Thanks for taking some time to join us today. Hopefully you've gotten a pretty good basic understanding of what we do on the sports side of things here at Special Olympics, and also how we tie the inclusion piece into schools with UCS, like Dan just talked about. I feel like when people think about Special Olympics, they often go right to the sports side of things. We don't really know, you know, unless you work for Special Olympics or you're sitting through a presentation like this, the other pieces of things that we offer, the UCS side of things, the health and wellness side of things. So we're really excited to share those extra pieces with you guys so that you really know what our athletes have available to them and how we kind of help give them a well-rounded, healthy lifestyle, we'll say. So the first thing we're going to talk about is our SoMeFit program. This is a pre-developed fitness and wellness curriculum that us as SoMe staff worked with some personal trainers as well as some educators to develop a guide that we thought would be beneficial for participants of all abilities. So we have different versions of the guide, depending on the age of the students, maybe the ability level of the students, and then we'll work with teachers and program staff to kind of decide what works best. So in most settings across the state of Michigan, we have this program that happens inside of a school. So we'll have one of our staff members come in and run the program for the teachers. So it's a really nice break for students to get up and moving and to learn some new information as well. This program is 8 to 10 weeks in length, and we meet just once a week for an hour at a time. We'll spend the first 10 to 15 minutes learning about a new health and wellness topic. That could include things like boundaries, healthy communication, hydration, fitness, how to create a balanced meal, and several other things that we kind of talk about and learn about over those 8 to 10 weeks. Once we're kind of wrapping up with that discussion, we'll spend the remaining of the time, which usually ends up being 40 to 45 minutes, doing a workout together. So we put together a workout that focuses solely on body weight exercises so that our athletes and students that participate won't have to use any type of equipment, and they can do this these exercises in pretty much any space that's available, in a classroom, in a gym, at their home, which is really awesome because it's such a flexible program in that way. So our workouts are set up with a warm-up where we'll get the body moving, get that heart rate going, and then we'll do a full workout together. And then we'll do a cool down as well, just to make sure that we're, protecting our bodies and all that type of stuff. This program is a really great way for individuals, both with and without intellectual disabilities, to work together and learn exercises that they can take home and do safely in any type of setting. So Dan mentioned it could be a unified piece inside of a UCS school who's looking for that unified sports/fitness piece. Participating in this program is really awesome for those students. Next, we can see just a brief overview of what our guide looks like. Week 1, you can see that for our lesson, we're talking about the different types of relationships that we see. It's really awesome because week 1, we start with relationships and how those relationships look different, not only for everybody, but what different categories do they fall in and things like that. And then we'll kind of expand on that topic and we'll continue to learn more about it as we move through the session and the program as well. And then on the other side of the screen, you can see a week 1 workout. So we have the warm up, the workout, and then the cool down. And our guide's pretty much set up the same way every week, with the exception of different information. And then some of those exercises change as well. Next, we're going to talk about coaches and practice. So our athletes are amazing and they practice very hard and they put a lot of effort and practice into their sports that they participate in. So they focus a lot on the fitness piece, but we've kind of been trying to include the nutrition piece into practice as well. So they get out there, they're super active, but we want them to also learn that nutrition, that educational piece as well. So we're implementing a new initiative here at Special Olympics starting very soon. It's called Fitness Captains. An athlete can become a fitness captain for their team by being nominated by their coach. So this is someone that's super dedicated and interested in health and wellness, sharing that information with their athletes, and then living a healthy lifestyle on their own as well. So they'll be responsible for leading their team in a warm up and a cool down at the beginning of each and every practice. And then they'll also be responsible for sharing a health tip with their teammates and remind them throughout the sports season and beyond to continue to make healthy choices and kind of move over to that healthy lifestyle. On the side of the screen, you can see there's a little tip sheet. This is something that an example of something that we would provide to athletes to be able to share with their teammates. So for example, this one says exercising in cold weather. So we would give this to athletes and they can use this to present as their health topic, or if there's something that they're really passionate about and they want to share with their athletes, they can share that topic as well. So in a practice setting, we don't want to take away from their sports practice. So we're going to have 10 minutes where we're sharing that health topic. It could be done at the beginning of practice, it could be end of practice, it could be maybe when they take a water break, whatever, works best for the coach and the flow of the practice. But we don't want to take away too much time from their sports practice. So just 10 minutes is all we're looking for our athletes to be able to share that information. This is a really great opportunity for athletes to take on a leadership role within their sports team. So that they can kind of be that go-to person for other athletes who maybe have some questions on health and fitness. Where do they go from here? What can they do to be more healthy? This fitness captain would be the person that they go to. So like I mentioned earlier, we provide the athletes, the fitness captains, with some tips that they can share. We also provide them with pre-developed warm-up and cool-down guides, which are specific to each sport. So we give these to our fitness captains just as something to go off of. They don't need to follow it exactly. There's an exercise that they normally do in their warm-up and it's not listed on that specific pre-developed sheet. They're more than welcome to kind of introduce more exercises on their own. So we're really excited to kind of pull that health piece into practice. And then we have, again, that health and fitness piece tied together in a different setting. Next, we're going to talk about a really great program that we offer at Special Olympics called Health Messenger. On the screen, you can see pictures of a couple of our health messengers here in Michigan, and they've done a bunch of great, amazing things for our health and wellness department and for their athletes and community as well. So a health messenger is a Special Olympics athlete who has been trained to serve as a health and wellness leader, advocate, and educator, as well as a role model within their Special Olympics community and beyond. So not only for their athletes, but also for their family members and maybe members of the community who are not part of Special Olympics. So our health messengers have a lot of important roles. They act as a spokesperson. Again, they're coming in to be that healthy habits leader, that health and fitness leader, as well as a health advocate, not only for themselves, but for other Special Olympics athletes as well. And they also act as a role model. So health messengers will go through a 2-day training with a mentor of their choosing. And that training aims to enhance the athlete's overall technical skill set. So give them the materials and the skills that they need to be successful in this leadership role. Help to promote athlete knowledge of health and their change in health behavior. What steps do we take to get towards living that healthier lifestyle? And then as well, learn how to teach and encourage advocacy for other Special Olympics athletes. Once they finish that training, they'll then have to create a practicum project, which can be done on a health topic of their choosing. So they'll work together with their mentor to create a project that they'll then share with their Special Olympics community and the community as a whole. So our health messengers have done amazing things. One of our health messengers has created her own cooking class from scratch as her practicum that she now shares virtually and in person with athletes across the state. Some of the other ideas that our athletes have had to develop some materials that they can use to make some SMART goals and kind of learn to hold themselves accountable to goals that they set. We've also had athletes who have put together fitness groups and provided information on athletes or for athletes on how to stay fit and active. So this is a really great leadership opportunity for those athletes that are super interested in the health and fitness side of things. We're going to talk briefly about the position of the mentor because they play a really significant role in helping our athletes that choose to go through this health messenger training take the next step towards kind of that completion. The mentor can be anyone that the athlete chooses, like I mentioned earlier. So it could be a family member, could be a friend, it can be a coach, it could be a Special Olympics staff. And then this is a relationship that kind of is long lasting afterwards. You know, you attend the training with your athlete, you help them through this practicum process, and then you continue to be that person of support for your athlete as they start to work on more projects or they start to grow as a leader. So this is a really great way to kind of build lifelong relationships with our athletes. I can speak to that personally, being a mentor for one of our athletes. It's so amazing to see your athletes come up with their own ideas and put these projects together and share it with their community. It's a really rewarding feeling. Aside from attending the training and helping the athlete with their practicum, the mentor also should provide constructive feedback for their athlete to kind of, keep them moving in the right direction, help them answer questions if needed, also help the athlete remain on track and hold them accountable, not only, again, in the training setting or while they're finishing their practicum, but as we move through, years. And then help research learning opportunities for them as well, because we want this to be a continuing learning process where athletes can not just attend the training and then they don't ever hear from anything again. So they attend the training and then they continue to learn as they, move into new opportunities. The last thing we're going to talk about is healthy athletes. This is a really great thing that we do here at Special Olympics worldwide, not just in Michigan. This is a program that provides free health screenings and health education in a fun and welcoming environment. So we're not in a doctor's office, we're not in a really quiet space, with a focus on removing some of the anxiety that individuals with intellectual disabilities often experience when they're faced with a visit to a medical professional. So we have these really large events that we kind of time with our state events that Kara mentioned earlier. So at our state summer games, we had a healthy athletes event where athletes have the opportunity to go through and get free screenings for, a bunch of different disciplines, which are listed below. We have our MedFest, which focuses on the history and just an overall physical exam for our athletes. Special Olympics Lions Club International Opening Eyes focuses on vision and eye health. So athletes have the opportunity to go through a screening, and maybe they need prescription glasses. We can give them to those for free so that they can, keep doing what they're doing, keep playing their sports and all that. Healthy Hearing focuses on audiology. We have Special Smiles, dentistry. Health Promotion focuses on prevention and nutrition. Strong Minds is one of our newest disciplines, which focuses on mental health. Fun Fitness is physical therapy focused. We have Fit Feet, which focuses on podiatry. And then our other new discipline is Healthy Young Athletes, which focuses on a comprehensive health screening for athletes at ages 2 to 7. So this is a really great opportunity for athletes to get access to healthcare and get those screenings. We also provide follow-up care, referrals, and places that athletes can go just to kind of stay up to date on their health. We're going to talk lastly about some of the accomplishments for healthy athletes across the United States. We provide more than 1 million screenings to our athletes in the United States each year. We have trained more than 130,000 healthcare professionals in specific healthcare concerns for people with intellectual disabilities. So we're kind of providing these opportunities for our athletes, but we're also providing training for healthcare professionals that they can take away from the event and share with other healthcare professionals in their setting. We have a Healthy Athletes software that is the largest database of health data for people with intellectual disabilities. So that's kind of where we store all of our information. And then we see that trained healthcare providers demonstrate improved awareness and self-efficacy in providing health services to patients with ID. So not only are the athletes benefiting from this event, but our clinical directors and our volunteers and our students are benefiting as well. So it's really awesome thing that we offer here at Special Olympics. So I'm going to turn it back over to Tim, and he's going to kind of wrap it up for us.
Yeah, thanks, Danielle. So I'm going to bring it home. We promised there is so much information. We promise there's not a test after this, but really the goal is for all of you on here to just see all of the different avenues and hopefully resources that Special Olympics Michigan offers, again, as we say, in every day, everywhere, in every county and community. So, if you've heard of something, whether it's, that high quality sports or interested in volunteering, SOMI.org. I already saw in the chat about our Unified Champion Schools. As Dan shared, we have 462 schools. We want to get to 500. We want to get to 600. We want to get to where every school in Michigan has a Unified Champion School component because it's a strategy that works. Danielle shared about all of the amazing health things. I mean, it's pretty incredible of thinking of all of those different disciplines are health screenings. And I'll say the last thing as we wrap up, and happy to answer any questions, is there is no cost for an athlete to be a part of Special Olympics Michigan. So the sports that you heard about, attending that statewide competition, the practice, the training, unified sports, health and wellness, the SOMI Fit, the Healthy Athlete, there are no costs for our Special Olympics athletes to register. And again, we can't do it without the support of so many volunteers. So again, if you know of someone or know of a family and say, boy, Special Olympics offers some really great things. Have you checked it out? That's awesome. Would also love for you to be involved. Come to an event, come volunteer. I promise you it is absolutely worth the time. As so many times we hear from our volunteers, we get so much more out of it than even our incredible athletes. And on that, as we wrap up, I think we have just a couple minutes to answer any questions that may pop up in the chat.
we have any questions right now. There was a question that I posed about who to connect the schools to if they wanted to be a partner. And Dan, thank you so much for answering that question. I do have a question about the age requirement, and you might have mentioned this, but is there an age limit for the athletes?
Yes, a great question, Kristen. So we start with our youngest athletes. Dan mentioned a little bit at ages 2 to 7. That's the young athletes program. And really, I'd say it's a young athletes, but it's a therapy. It's gross motor skill development. It's working on inclusive play. It's the children ages 2 to 7, they come. They'll learn some balance. They'll work on throwing, kicking. I mean, it's a party and just so much fun. The other benefit through that is that we hear so many times of parents going there and so many times of knowing I'm not alone, right? And I've got other parents to talk to me about this journey, or I've got support from this. And then starting at age 8 is when our athletes can start competing throughout the program. And again, we have athletes that once they turn 8, boom, they're in and they're ready to go. We have athletes that are 82, 83 that are still playing bocce and snowshoeing. So really it can be a program for life.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. We did have somebody that said they're very grateful. It was a great presentation in your organization. They were very impressed with what you guys offered today and the information. So thank you so much for taking the time out, Dan, Danielle, Kara, and Tim. We really appreciate it. It's so thorough, and it's nice to have a better insight about what you guys are doing, and hopefully we can partner in the future and bring more awareness to what you guys are doing, because it really is incredible. So it doesn't look like we have any additional questions, but anybody on the call, if you do want more information, feel free to reach out to me or reach out to all the contact information. This meeting is going to be recorded, and hopefully will be able to be sent out to everybody in the district so they can have a listen if they weren't able to attend today. So again, on behalf of MRS, we really appreciate you all coming today. We really do. And best of luck to you all. And all right, we will talk to you guys soon. Thank you so much.
Yep. Thanks, everyone. Choose to include. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you.